With the WNBA in a bit of a bind right now, with the players trying to figure out a new CBA, and fans are speculating, and the media is wondering, are we going to even have a season? Project B is right around the corner. We know the league starts, I believe, in November and it runs through April. It's going to compete with Unrivaled. I think it's going to kill Unrivaled, in my opinion, because they have way more money than them. And it's 3-on-3. So I could see a situation where Project B gains some of the fans from Unrivaled, and they've got more money involved and invested. They're also going to play overseas, not just in America. But my thing is this for Caitlin Clark, I know she has said, I just plan to play in the WNBA. But I have to wonder, with everything going down with the players negotiating a new CBA, the statements that took place between the league and the Players Association, it makes you wonder, what is Caitlin Clark going to do? Because she has said we got to reach a compromise. She also mentioned this quote here that people it showcased what people think of women's basketball in reference to Project B. People really believe in putting their money where their mouth is. And that's true. There's a lot of money invested in Project B. And I think for Caitlin Clark, if things don't move forward, or let's just say the league gets started late, she's going to consider her options. And that's not going to help the WNBA at all, because if she doesn't help build Unrivaled, then nobody's really going to care. We saw the ratings that the views are in the mud, and I don't see how they're going to sustain themselves. I know Fee said, "Oh yeah, we're in year 2, and we're showcasing that there can be growth." And you have to understand, it takes 5 years for a business to survive and go through the ups and downs. But with Project B, you look at the players they have signed here. They got Neke Gumike, Alyssa Thomas. You've got Jonquil Jones, Jewel Lloyd, Sophie Cunningham, Cardoso, Lee Meng, Janelle Saloon, Kelsey Mitchell. Now, the blue chip players are Mitchell Jones, Thomas, and Agumike. And what's interesting about this whole thing is that they can get an annual salary of $2 million. And players aren't just going to turn that down. You go from November to April, as we talked about. The Supermax for WNBA right now is $300,000. Obviously, that will change with the new CBA, even if the players don't get what they're looking for. So if Project B can make these type of offers and our rival doesn't see that type of money with their contracts, what do you think is going to happen? The players who are considered unrivaled or are playing in that league are going to jump ship. And now Fee is in a dicey situation. The players are also receiving equity in this new league, which is another selling point. So this is a big deal, in my opinion. I think for Caitlin Clark, she's going to at least consider this if the league and the players can't get a deal done, or it becomes a dragged out situation, or if the refs don't improve and Caitlin Clark goes through another season where she's mistreated by the media. I know she does a good job tuning that out, but eventually you get tired of that stuff, in my opinion. So it's going to be interesting to see if she's like, you know what, I'd rather just focus on hooping, see what happens with this league. There's some players that are in this league who have been around the WNBA for a while. So why not sign up? It's going to be very interesting to see what Clark does. Cunningham is playing with her. We'll see if she, re-signs with the Fever. But there's a lot to be said about this whole entire situation. So the known investors is their list here. I don't know a lot of these names, but Steve Young comes to mind. I know about him. Jokovic, the tennis player. Candace Parker. That's a pretty big name. There's some names on this list where you're like, okay, they've got some money, and I think this could help really take this league and get off to a good start, especially it's 5-on-5. And apparently, I was reading up on this. They can also play not just overseas, but also play in America. So that's very intriguing to me if that's to be the case. And like I said, if Caitlin Clark is frustrated with what's happening and she's growing impatient, I think that just spells trouble for the WNBA. If they just scoff over this situation and don't take their league more serious, and let's just say there's better refereeing, the games are cleaner, and it's more entertaining, that's going to create a problem for the WNBA. So it's not just Unrivaled that needs to pay attention to what's going on. It's also the league itself. Obviously, Project B is not as big as them, but if they're offering bigger contracts, you can't just look past that, especially if it grows in popularity and we get good basketball. Fans are going to be like, you know what? I'll tune in. Also, it's not a bad time to have basketball because, it's in November. Football is beginning to close down. Football ends in February, so they got a market between February and April to get more market share and get more fans and a bigger audience. And then with the WNBA, they have their audience between, I would say, May up to August. That's because that's when football season starts. So it's interesting to see what Project B does and if they take advantage of that situation. if they got all this money involved, man, it's going to be a fun show to watch, especially with players right now. They're sitting on the sidelines. They're not being played in the unrivaled, or they're getting ready for the WNBA season, but there might not be a season. They might feel some type of way if a negotiation doesn't get done. Trust is lost in the Players Association. They might go, you know what? I'm just going to go overseas. I'm getting my $2 million. I know I'm going to get a raise in the WNBA, but I want my money. And I think our rival will suffer big time, in my opinion. So for Caitlin Clark, I would definitely consider this move, especially if things continue to spiral out of control. And I think it will do her good. Like if the Project B offers her like a $50 million contract, maybe I'm being unrealistic, but you get what I'm saying. Let's just say they can offer her like 20, 25 million. That is going to move some heads in her direction. Like players are going to pay attention and go, you know what? It's all back and forth or WNBA. I'm going to go overseas and play basketball because the money's there and money talks at the end of the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Caitlin Clark. Should she consider going to play in Project B later this year? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.